Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, anytime you get to watch this. This is your brother and friend Jojo of De-Mens Media. Now today, once again, I come your way with this video that I'm going to react to. I bet someone, if you have watched my videos before, if you've been on my channel before, I do speak about the West and how the West had treated Africa and still treating Africa, and the fact that Africa is waking up, and then the fact that Africa is beginning to obviously make certain decisions and taking certain bold steps that should have been taken way back, but we still appreciate the fact better late than never. You understand? I will give you a backstory as to reasons why I do what I do, and also I do speak about Burkina Faso, especially His Excellency the President of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, and I do stand with Mali, I stand with Niger, I stand with all African countries, the 54 states. As long as they are not being oppressed, as long as they are being treated right, as long as things are not going the way they ought to go, I will continually speak and raise my voice on this to create the awareness. So if this is your first time of visiting this channel and seeing this face, do not make it the last. Subscribe to this channel, let us grow this family together. Now, before I go on to expatiate on things, let us watch this video from His Excellency Thabo Mbeki, former president of South Africa.
But I think we've got to understand this about the West Africa situation. A few years back, you remember we had to work with Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, to help them to get sorted out. And one of the things that we found was that there was an agreement with France signed at the point of the independence of Cote d'Ivoire, that France would maintain a military barracks in Abidjan, the capital. And the commander of the French troops, in any situation where he felt the security of Cote d'Ivoire or the security of France was threatened, he had the power, sovereign power, a French general, to take over the public station broadcasting and announce whatever he liked. It's one of the agreements, one of the 12 or so agreements, that not only Cote d'Ivoire, but many countries of the Francophone countries that signed with France at independence. Mali has just repudiated all of those agreements. I think there were 11 or 12 of them, which include prescriptions about when you've generated a foreign currency, bank it in Paris. And Paris, the French franc then, would guarantee your currency, CFA. Part of what is happening in West Africa is a rebellion by young officers against French neo-colonialism. It's not only military coups to remove some elected president, but these young soldiers are saying our politics since independence has respected this junior relationship with France. That must end. So you see the big confrontation between these countries and France. It has to do with ending, like the agreements I've talked about. That you'd have a French general based in Cote d'Ivoire who has actually the power to intervene in Cote d'Ivoire as he liked. So it's an anti-neo-colonial rebellion. It has got this element, you are quite correct, of removing elected presidents. How does the continent deal with that? Well, you know the OAU has a standard policy against illegal changes of government. So the military governments don't get recognized. But we have a particular consequence now where Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso decide that they are walking out of ECOWAS. Now that can be a positive development. What is to be done? It's not a question that we can answer here. But I think it's necessary for us to understand the objective reality. What actually is happening? It's not just young soldiers who are hungry for power and therefore remove this elected president. No. That's why they talk about Thomas Sankara. Sankara took power by coup d'etat. He was a soldier. But Sankara understood this particular issue, the need to destroy and defeat neo-colonialism. And that's what these young soldiers are saying. What do we do with them? What does Africa do with them? I think Africa is a challenge, a problem, answering that issue, answering that question. Again, you see, with regard to these issues of our need properly to understand what are we dealing with.
Welcome back. Now, I guess you can understand the reason why I seem to be talking about the West every now and then. And obviously, I'm passionate about some of the things that I say. I don't just say them for the sake of saying them. I say them at the back of what you just heard the former president explain. Now, look at this. A country, a sovereign nation would elect their own president, which obviously, as a francophone country, France would have influenced. France would be at the back of who rules that country as a president. So that president is already a puppet, right? That is not enough. Their base that is in that country, should the security of that country face a bit of a threat, or the security of France face a bit of a threat, the general in charge of that base has the power to enter the radio station or the TV station to announce not anything but announce whatever he or she deem fit to announce. So that is more or less like, in as much as you have a president who is a puppet, he is the most puppet and most lame, disabled, dysfunctional president that could ever exist. And now I could understand another thing. Now, you see, this is how sad. This is how sad it is. You see, when Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger said to French troops to leave the country, France, i.e. Macron, went somewhere and was saying things like, oh, they are being ungrateful. The fact that had not been them and the troops in them countries, those countries would not have achieved sovereignty. Whereas you do know what you have done. And then to top it all off, when they have collected their revenue, it has to go to France. So literally you take your money, you bring it to me. If you need part of the money, you come and borrow your own money, pay interest on your own money. And this thing had gone on for far too long. The colonials came into Africa and drew boundaries. They drew boundaries, created borders. And when it was time for them to go, they said, we're not just going to go. We're going. It's more or less like we take some our toes, but we leave our footprint. The main foot are here, because then that is how they are able to control the natural resources. And as I was saying, Macron went over there saying all these things that they crying like it looks as if Africa had not treated us right. But well and truly, we have treated you the way you ought to be treated. As a matter of fact, it has been long overdue the way we had treated you now. You understand? So now you think about it and you ask yourself, how can people be so wicked? Now, when you look at the entire continent of Africa, 26 or 29 countries were colonized by France. And out of these 26 or 29, I can guarantee you more than 20 are poor. Poor to the extent that it's below poor. It's below poverty. But what gets me is that I don't know why France has sat down all this while thinking that they were always going to have that opportunity, that chance to treat Africa like they had always treated Africa, especially the countries that they had colonized. I don't know. But as I said, if you have not understood the reason why I seem to be picking on the West, not the East or Russia, but the West, this is the reason. Their level of wickedness and their level of self-aggrandizement is out of this world. When you think about it, you can't understand. If this had come from any ordinary person or any other person, I guess we would have trivialized it. This is coming from honorable man. The man was the president of South Africa. He knows exactly what he's talking about. Let us look into these things. Know the enemy that we are fighting, knowing very well that they will come as wolf in sheep clothing. They don't have anything good for us. It's their wish that, look at it. How do you buy uranium that the actual market value is 85 billion, and then you come in and you pay 1 billion. So basically the percentage on it is out of this world. And this is how they had treated Africa all this while. And to break it all off, they go back and then they look back on Africa, look down on us, speak ill of us, disrespect us, not even give us our flour. That in spite of everything, we still come over and we still get some natural resources to beautify. Have you been to France? How they wash their streets, and because they have the money. So as honorable as His Excellency Thabo Mbeki said, the people are not just overthrowing democratically elected presidents because they are hungry for power, but they are overthrowing them because it has become more than necessary for that to happen. Because if that doesn't happen, I don't know how they are going to progress or develop. Go to Benin, poor country. Go to Togo, poor country. I mean, just name most of the francophone countries. They are poor, yet they are richly endowed with natural resources. But then how? Somebody is holding their neck against the wall, pressing it to the extent that they can't even breathe. They are suffocating. And what the francophone countries, especially these ones that had decided to leave ECOWAS, and I back them up for leaving ECOWAS, because if ECOWAS has become an organization that is in the pocket of the West and cannot fulfill their mandate, then what's the point of me belonging to a group that cannot give you that which they're supposed to give you? What would be the point? So they have every right to leave as sovereign nation and to leave as sovereign nations and form whatever group that they deem fit to form. So the people, listen, the people who don't understand what is going on in the West. And this brings me to a point of the video, a video that I did that went viral about that senator from Kenya who was trying to talk ill of His Excellency, the President of Burkina Faso. You don't understand. And I'm so much disappointed, but I expect a senator to have had a bit of a clue before opening his mouth to say all these things. That tells me the kind of lazy senator that you are. I don't even know where and how you did your research that you were encouraging a colleague to do same, because obviously the research that you did is flawed. And the saddest thing here is you're close to South Africa. This man is in South Africa. I mean, there are so many ways you could get information in this dispensation that we are in now. If you are ignorant, it's because you want to be. If you are unintelligent, it's because you want to be. Because if information happens to be at our fingertips, you can just get them if you want them. That is the reason why I went a little bit in on that senator from Kenya, because I couldn't understand. And this thing that His Excellency Thabo Mbeki was saying is out there in the public domain. It is out there in the public domain that if you're looking for it, you can find it. So how can you do such a thing? But hey, at the end of the day, as I keep on saying, I'm sitting out here ranting, what do I know? But still, it's my take